What's up guys, welcome back. This is Anime Crossover. You'll be watching What If Naruto Was the Emperor of Elements, in the Avatar Part 10. Now, let's begin. Naruto's POV. 1. The northern region of the Fire Nation. I had some available time and chose to utilize it by traveling to the City of the Sun. No vessels navigate to such isolated locations, and only a handful are aware that the island remains home to the oldest tribe of the Fire Nation. I arranged for the charter of a complete vessel, making an advance payment for the round trip. While it was not inexpensive, my position as a tutor to the children of the Fire Lord provides a substantial income, allowing me to manage my finances comfortably. Currently, I am progressing at full speed towards the island I require. In my quest to achieve proficiency in firebending, I have encountered a significant obstacle. I am optimistic that the dragons residing on the island will assist me in overcoming this bottleneck. The crew's decision to refrain from asking unnecessary questions was commendable. As long as the client fulfills their financial obligations, other matters are not their responsibility. Upon arrival, I extended my farewell to the ship's captain, emphasizing the importance of returning to this location in precisely 1 week. After traversing approximately a kilometer through forested terrain, the City of the Sun Warriors emerged into view, situated in the heart of a mountain valley. At its core stood a substantial 7-tiered pyramid. It is evident that a significant number of individuals once resided in this area. However, at this point, all the roads and structures had become overgrown. The stone buildings, which are smaller replicas of the central pyramid, were overtaken by vegetation. It appears to be in excellent condition, I remarked, after triggering yet another trap, resulting in arrows being launched at me with great velocity. The city is filled with numerous traps, indicating that it remains inhabited. There were masterfully crafted stone statues of dragons, slightly fewer in number than the traps themselves. Primarily, the Eastern variety was predominant, however, there were also some instances of Western types present. As I navigated the city, frescoes started to emerge, also depicting dragons. Numerous representations illustrate dragons bestowing their fire upon humans. At that time, they could not have foreseen that this would culminate in the genocide of their people. I anticipated they would recognize my presence more quickly, I reflected. The narrow streets of the ancient city were meticulously structured to facilitate the setting of traps and the surveillance of intruders with ease. A group of 5, comprising several skilled firebenders, commenced a careful observation of my actions. As they were neither revealing themselves nor prompting my departure, I opted to dedicate additional time to exploring the city. It is intriguing to observe the lifestyles of individuals from previous eras. Oh, that's it, I have been contemplating what this resemblance brings to mind. The architecture and buildings closely reflect the characteristics of the Mayan and Aztec civilizations. The animated series suggests that the inhabitants closely resemble individuals from these ancient cultures in both appearance and attire. This aligns perfectly with my expectations, I reflected. In one of the squares, there stood a substantial pillar, which served as a solar calendar. Adjacent to it was a sanctuary featuring a sunstone. Based on my understanding, when a beam of light traverses the stone and reflects off the calendar, it strikes a red stone positioned above the sanctuary's gates, resulting in the opening of the doors. I did not wait for the solstice. Instead, I retrieved a small mirror I had brought and aimed the light beam to the appropriate location. The stone absorbed the light, emitting a brilliant red glow that subsequently activated the opening of the stone doors. Inside, everything resembled the setting depicted in the episode of Avatar featuring the firebending masters. Imposing statues showcased the poses of the dancing dragon. It is clear that I cannot manipulate this mechanism, I concluded, indicating that it is time to assist myself. I call upon you. With a gentle breeze, Yo materialized beside me. Shall we commence? Yo inquired of myself. Let us commence, I acknowledged. As the Sun Warriors remain outside, oblivious to the events unfolding here, I must seize this opportunity. As I began to adopt the required poses, I reflected on my initial firebending training, during which I successfully reached that elevated state of awareness. The remainder is in your hands, Yo stated before vanishing without a trace. Roku anticipated his arrival, as the distance to Wan Shi Tong's library is significantly shorter than traveling from the North Pole. In an instant, a pedestal bearing the sunstone materialized. I need to take this and leave promptly. I have no desire to find myself caught in that situation with an unknown substance, I considered, seizing the stone and swiftly heading outside. Halt! One of the Sun Warriors commanded. He and his associates were already awaiting my arrival outside. 2 men and 1 woman positioned their spears perilously near my body, while two others appeared prepared to transform me into a well-cooked meal. "I am ceasing my actions," I stated with composure. I was already aware of their movements, so it did not come as a surprise to me. "I assure you, my intentions are purely driven by curiosity and interest." I paused mid-sentence as I sensed a subtle pulse of life radiating from the golden egg. It was so small that even my Kai sense had difficulty detecting it. "I am uncertain how you acquired it, however, we request that you return the sunstone to us," outsider, asserted the individual who appeared to be their leader, marked by red stripes on his cheeks. "What type of stone is this? It is evident that there is still life flickering within." My statement ignited a flurry of murmurs among the Sun Warriors. The speaker maintained silence, observing me with an inscrutable expression. Were they unaware that it was more than just a stone? Or is there a hidden truth here? Questions circulated in my thoughts. "Silence! Escort him to the chief." He promptly hushed the others and took his place beside my left shoulder. We commenced our journey in an orderly manner. As the Aztec-like warriors observed me closely, I meticulously scrutinized the egg. It evokes a resemblance to Unagi's eggs. I believe there is a significant possibility that this is a dragon egg. It is quite unusual that it concluded in such a location. Shortly, we arrived at one of the deserted pyramids. The leader of the group meticulously moved aside the vines of a certain plant, uncovering a door that had been concealed until now. This approach is likely more advantageous. If the surroundings appear neglected, it may lead others to believe that no one resides here any longer. What transpired, Ham Gao? Inside, a complete delegation awaited our arrival. The individual who posed the question was presumably the chief of the tribe, as he was the only one adorned with a feathered headdress. His face bore a striking resemblance to that of the character from the animated series. "Chief, it appears this individual has uncovered some information regarding our sacred relic," Ham Gao murmured into the chief's ear, though I was still able to overhear. The chief maintained a stoic demeanor, merely narrowing his eyes in my direction. "What is the reason for all the confidentiality? What brings you to the City of the Sun, traveler?" The chief's authoritative voice conveyed a sense of welcome. "I seek to acquire firebending wisdom from my esteemed masters," I responded promptly. "He possesses knowledge regarding the dragons. We should eliminate him," whispered the tribe members, who were already displeased with my presence. "Very well, I will escort you to the masters. They will determine the appropriate course of action," the chief stated, quieting his tribesmen with a gesture of his hand. On this occasion, we departed from the city, making our way toward the impressive Twin Rocks. The vicinity surrounding the Master's Cave possessed a distinctive ambiance. Am I merely overthinking the situation due to the presence of dragons in this area? "May I inquire why you do not wish to reclaim your sunstone?" I finally asked the chief. "Our masters will provide you with all necessary explanations, should they find you deserving," the chief responded with composure. "What if I am not deserving? You will prepare an exceptional meal for the masters?" Ham Gao chuckled, his laughter harsh. "If only you were aware that I have already raised dragons of my own." I directed a disdainful look his way but chose not to elaborate further. It is time to begin the ascent. Observing the lengthy staircase, I commenced my climb. As I arrived at the summit, two imposing dragon figures soared past on either side. Executing a concise flight, resembling a dance, they maintained their position with their muzzles directly before me. Their influence was significant, clearly aligned with optimal levels of enthusiasm. What methods did the Fire Nation employ to track them down? Did they assemble the entire city? Or should we wait until they have fallen asleep? "The scent of sea dragons surrounds you," a robust male voice resonated in my thoughts. I believed they had become extinct long ago. This one exhibited a more feminine quality. "What is it that you seek from us, unfamiliar entity?" I found myself perplexed. "Good day, esteemed colleagues," I remarked. Non-aggressive. This is a positive attribute. Why not demonstrate some courtesy? What is the significance of being? Your scent carries both the essence of spirit and humanity. It is ambiguous. I anticipated there would be something more present here. "Have you encountered our sea kin at any point?" the female dragon inquired with sincere curiosity. She is the individual characterized by the blue hue. It is somewhat uncommon to observe their static expressions during discussions. Even their jaws remain motionless. It is akin to the interaction with spirits, conveyed through thought and communication. I candidly shared information about Unagi's children, not anticipating the overwhelming joy it would elicit from them. I was under the impression that water and fire did not coexist harmoniously. "Our lineage persists in another place," she stated with a sense of relief. We sincerely appreciate your assistance to our community members. What brings you to us? The Red Dragon inquired, adopting a more amicable demeanor. I have come to request your expertise in firebending, I replied. They ought not to decline. We will assist you, he stated after locking eyes with what I presume is his partner. Before we begin, I would like to inquire about the egg that still retains a flicker of life. I believe that an individual with a connection to dragons may be receptive to this narrative. The pause was notably extended this time. In ancient times, when dragons dominated the skies without challenge, and our numbers were vast, there existed the esteemed lineage of the royal dragons among us. The royal dragons have certainly earned their reputation as the strongest. The initial dragons successfully adapted to the human world while preserving their firebending and Kai abilities. They were the ones who imparted the knowledge of firebending to humanity. They are also referred to as sun dragons, characterized by scales that emit a glow when exposed to sunlight. The city, along with the entire culture of the Sun Warriors, derives its name from them. As we grow stronger and older, the challenge of producing new offspring increases, he remarked with a sense of profound sorrow. Malicious individuals have expedited our demise. This golden egg represents the final direct lineage of the sun dragons, the ultimate opportunity for endurance. As indicated by their name, they derive nourishment from the sun. Its rays provide them with vitality and resilience. However, the delicate life within the egg was unable to endure exposure to direct sunlight. The adult kin capable of providing care have long since either passed away or succumbed to the actions of other bending creatures. In those ancient times, immensely powerful creatures, once ethereal beings, traversed these territories. In collaboration with the humans who revered them and various dragon species, a method was developed that still provided a slight possibility of birth. The red stone positioned above the sanctuary's doors served to filter sunlight effectively. Subsequently, the sun's energy penetrated the egg through the small stones embedded in the wall. More than 2 millennia have elapsed, yet the pulse has merely diminished over the years. Is there a way we can gradually infuse it with energy, drop by drop? I, too, was keen to witness the kings among dragons firsthand. As I did with the sea dragons. Our species differ significantly in that regard, the blue dragoness stated, shaking her head. Once the egg exits the mother's body, there is no means to assist it. Any intervention would jeopardize the very emergence of life. The embryo can only develop by drawing from a natural, untainted source, she stated. I am curious if my neutral energy would be effective. Do you believe this energy has potential for use? I projected my neutral energy outward, observing the dragon's enormous eyes widen even further. How did you accomplish that? 2 strong voices echoed in my mind. Please lower your volume. It felt as though my mind was being jostled and disturbed. We apologize. We had simply lost hope for a miracle, the blue dragoness stated, her tone more composed. Please consider adding a bit more energy, she requested, her voice reflecting both anticipation and apprehension. Ultimately, there exists a possibility that we could eliminate the dragonling. Just a small, minimal drop. Even my palms were perspiring from the pressure. I carefully extracted a minimal amount of energy from the source and directed it into the golden egg. 1 second has elapsed. Subsequently, the heartbeat ceased. The expressions of the dragons, or more accurately, their aerial postures, exuded a sense of sorrow. Thump thump. Thump thump. The beating has commenced once more. With each passing second, it became increasingly powerful and intense. Ran and Xiao ascended gracefully, initiating a captivating performance. I stood there with a composed expression, gently handling the egg. I sincerely hope this will be the final egg I need to assist with, I reflected. Alternatively, a concerning trend appears to be developing. Only the Sun Warriors were unaware of the unfolding events. They commenced playing their drums with vigor. The principle is straightforward. When the leaders are satisfied, we are content as well. Van. Island of the Sun Warriors. The vital pulse of the Golden Dragon's existence, upon attaining a specific velocity, ceased. For an additional 5 minutes, I directed my neutral Kai into the egg in a steady stream until it no longer absorbed the energy. The egg's golden hue appeared to intensify in saturation. The sun's rays seemed to actively pursue the surface of the provisional residence of the future Lord of the Heavens. Would you be able to assist us as well? Xiao inquired with a hint of hesitation. At last, I became acquainted with their names. The individual adorned with blue scales was Ran, while the one exhibiting red scales was Xiao. I will assist to the best of my ability, I responded promptly. How could I refrain from offering my assistance when they generously provided me with complimentary firebending training and even presented me with a dragon egg? Regardless of whether the egg would have survived in my absence, it remains a testament to their lineage. You may proceed with it, Xiao suddenly stated to his companion. Without awaiting additional guidance, she ascended into the air with strong wing beats, directing her course toward her cave. In under a minute, Ran arrived, meticulously holding something in her clawed paws. As she approached, I realized it was yet another egg. Reduced in size and exhibiting a reddish hue, it did not possess the grandeur of the golden egg. Another egg? I muttered to myself. This egg represents our final opportunity to preserve our lineage, Ran stated, looking affectionately at her future offspring. She carefully placed the egg at my feet and stated, I also request that you infuse some of your Kai into our child. Her tone was resolute, while Xiao appeared to have diminished in confidence. This situation has the potential for negative outcomes, he finally stated. I no longer wish to be surrounded by lifeless fossils, she stated, her voice tinged with urgency. She then quickly added, I apologize. It is preferable to embrace a slight possibility of continuation rather than to await an inevitable conclusion that we both recognize. The scarcity of Kai in the world has likely influenced their decision, compelling them to undertake such a risk. As I observed the egg she presented, I recalled the red dragon Druk from the legend of Korra, which Zuko mounted. I am unsure of the exact circumstances surrounding how he obtained it, but does this not indicate that the egg will successfully hatch? Once more, I find myself adhering to canon, I reflected, despite my earlier resolve to avoid dependence on the animated series narrative, as numerous events diverged significantly. Understood, I will make an effort, I communicated to the attentive dragons, who were patiently anticipating my reply. With deliberate precision, I whispered to myself as I focused my energy. The initial rhythm of this egg's pulses was significantly stronger, however, this did not serve as a definitive indicator of hatching. The temperature has increased, I observed. The egg had certainly increased in temperature, however, no additional changes were observed. It worked! Ran and Xiao exclaimed simultaneously, their exuberant shouts surprising the Sun Warriors below. Did it? The egg merely warmed up, I remarked, aiming to maintain their enthusiasm while still expressing my curiosity. That is exactly the evidence indicating that the dragon will emerge, the enthusiastic red dragon articulated. Ultimately, a positive conclusion is what matters most. Upon returning the egg, I made preparations for the primary objective of my journey here. After they had fully embraced their joy, they confirmed their readiness to execute the most impressive dragon dance. Shortly thereafter, I started to replicate the graceful movements of dragons as they soared through the sky. I anticipated that something would occur at this stage, however, it did not. There is no information to convey at this time. The Kai flowed through the channels with increased intensity. This was an ability I could achieve independently. I chose to maintain my optimism until the conclusion of the performance, when both dragons unleashed their entwined flames. Positioned at the core of the dynamic vortex of fire, I found it impossible to divert my gaze from the stunning array of colors generated by the dragon's flames. Is that all there is? I contemplated, my eyes fixed on the fire surrounding me. Perhaps I should approach it more closely. It was only when I stepped nearer to the wall of flames that I started to sense something. Approach even further. Insufficient. Clarity emerged unexpectedly as I immersed my hand directly into the flames. I took decisive action to confront the challenges ahead, fully committing myself to the endeavor. The discomfort of deteriorating skin receded into the background. In that moment, my complete attention was directed solely towards the element of fire. In my thoughts, all my firebending training, theories, and battles rapidly unfolded. Firebenders utilize Kai, or life energy, as the catalyst for generating fire. My own words emerged. It appeared that my subconscious was providing me with a subtle indication. Spirits originally had only energy, while humans possess Kai, I reflected, gaining a deeper understanding. I have been rather sluggish in my understanding. Clarity emerged the instant I grasped the concept. Spirits do not possess Kai, resulting in a distinct method of flame creation compared to humans. Their fire may even be regarded as more transcendent. Indeed, we shall refer to it as spiritual fire. I also remembered how my awareness had been somewhat affected during encounters with fire spirits. I prioritized essential matters by setting aside extraneous thoughts. The essence of dragon fire aligns closely with that of spirits, and given my direct engagement with it, I should endeavor to master this skill. Particularly as I sense the barriers distinguishing me from the higher rank quivering. The instructions appeared straightforward. Simply refrain from using Kai at the outset. The dragon's fiery breath was approaching its conclusion, and I had yet to accomplish any objectives. Interestingly, I had not anticipated that they could discharge fire multiple times. I was fully focused on the task at hand. Acknowledged. My powerful roar was accompanied by white columns of flame erupting from my mouth and 2 raised hands. This occurred at the peak of the dance performance. The more I attempted to refrain from utilizing Kai, the more the thought persisted in my mind. My body and mind had unconsciously adapted to incorporating a touch of Kai. It became evident that all I needed to do was snap, allowing me to release my frustrations and redirect my energy outward. That is precisely what occurred. I aimed to harness the maximum potential to fulfill my ambitions. I have introduced not only standard fire but also incorporated blue and green flames. All of this was accomplished without a single drop of Kai, resulting in a transformation into white spiritual fire. It can be referred to as white fire. At this moment, I can assert with confidence that, regarding temperature and power, it significantly exceeds dragon fire, all while maintaining the characteristics of green fire. The emergence of blue fire was yet another unexpected development. Up until that point, I believed that utilizing it necessitated a connection with Kai. However, it became evident that it was not required. The sources had converged and are now progressively separating once more. I noted that it was somewhat drafty as I glanced down. My garments were rapidly incinerated upon exposure to such elevated temperatures. I found myself entirely exposed in front of a whole tribe and 2 dragons. It appeared that only 3 eggs were absent for the complete outcome. A selection of clothing, if feasible. I called out to the Sun Warriors, although their clothing was quite similar to mine. I only need to ensure my privacy is maintained. The remainder is not a concern. Flames unmatched even by the strongest dragons. Shao commended me. You have indeed become more resilient, Ran acknowledged. The advancement to the elevated position has finally taken place. As I awaited the arrival of my garments, I observed my skin. Even more delicate and aesthetically pleasing. I quietly spoke, making contact with the skin on my arm. This outcome was likely anticipated. The fire had caused significant damage to the skin, yet new skin was rapidly regenerated due to the influence of Kai. Additionally, I currently possess 20% less of it. It appeared like I was getting closer to opening a new chakra. Before my garments arrived, I had to check something. All right, breathe on me again, I asked the dragons. It's fine, you've already seen that nothing will happen to me, I continued, knowing exactly what they were thinking based on their unchanged expressions. The scorching torrent poured across my body. The heat, which turned into extreme pain, caused me to clench my teeth. Kai rushed like a river through my hardened pathways, rapidly repairing the injured places. A perfect training tool, on par with my early days in the gravity chamber, I recalled. Additionally, training in the chamber no longer produced the same results. To open a chakra, the body requires a series of injuries. Looks like I know what I'll be doing this week. Almost every minute of that week, I was doing something. For the next 2 days, I took showers under the dragon's fire. With each successive session, my skin became tougher, and my internal organs tempered, bringing me closer to the 4th chakra. The Sun Tribe members greeted me kindly and hospitably. It appeared like the dragons themselves had told them to treat me like a dragon. This sparked an immediate reaction among the female population. Bearing my child may increase their position as the mother of a dragon's son. Religious zeal matched with personal interest, resulting in something completely weird. Fortunately, it was limited to sidelong glances from behind their lashes and presumably unintentional displays of different appealing body parts. It was all very appealing, but it appeared that I had grown accustomed to focusing just on crowned figures or cult characters from the cosmos. I admit, I have gotten picky. Now I only want princesses. The higher rank gave me a significant boost in all firebending related abilities. Power and flame temperature increased, while energy usage reduced. I believe that the white fire is my most prized acquisition. The combination of different fires is too catastrophic, and I originally struggled to apply intricate procedures. The fire isn't quite as intense as the Vachu enthusiasts, but it's getting close. Another aspect of spiritual fire was the revelation that explained why, with the same Kai consumption, spirit flames are more powerful. It turns out they aren't as reliant on oxygen. While typical firebenders have exterior constraints, spiritual fire, given the same amount of oxygen, can produce significantly more. I still have a lot to learn about this type of fire. It's all ahead. Later, the dragon's fire began to lose potency, so I took a gamble and changed things up. Before jumping into an active volcano's boiling crater, I said, "This will definitely lead to my grave someday." What a nice bath. My bones ached. But for a threefold benefit, I won't stop at anything. You gain command over the fire element, improve the quantity and quality of Kai, and accelerate chakra opening. I only had to halt this exercise a few times. After all, I needed to breathe. With so many active volcanoes, the territory of the Fire Nation will naturally expand, I said to myself. Even the oldest maps show that numerous islands appeared quite recently. The Fire Nation archipelago has a large number of volcanoes. There might be more volcanoes than rivers. For the first time, I chose the volcano that appeared to be the most harmful. The golden egg was less demanding, absorbing only a tenth of my reserve by the end of the week before settling down. I was already apprehensive about having to take it everywhere. It was a stroke of luck because I couldn't afford to disrupt my activities at the palace. Many people, if not all, would be intrigued by this egg, especially since I've never let go of it. Ran and Xiao, anxious to put their own skills to the test, assisted me in determining my heightened ability. They had not faced a real opponent in a long time. The conflict took place in the air, so I had to navigate on two legs, causing flames to explode. This time, I wasn't merely emulating Method's attitudes, I actually required them. The white flames required constant management from me. Raw. With Xiao's thunderous roar, a massive wave of flames rushed toward me. Let's see how this turns out, I answered his attack with my own. A slightly smaller flame erupted from my mouth. Good. Very good. My fire, albeit losing some of its strength, dispersed the dragon's strike while continuing on its goal. 3 more confrontations demonstrated that a single dragon was no match for me. So Ran joined the sparring. With 2 dragons, the situation changed. In the first several minutes, all I could do was defend myself. But, immediately in the heat of combat, my command over the wildfire improved dramatically, allowing me to use my whole arsenal of maneuvers and methods. The fight ended with my decisive triumph. Their huge bodies, even at rapid speeds, made ideal targets. Their inability to control fire using anything other than their mouths severely limited their options. The week passed quickly, and my ship arrived. "I hope you'll come see us sometime." The chief bid me farewell kindly. "The dragons blessed us at your arrival. You are our eternal friend." How could I depart without healing others, as is tradition? Everything was done discreetly, and the tribe members had already devised their own explanations. Now I'm entering the ship, carrying a woven sack containing the egg over my shoulder. He arrived in nice clothes but left in rags, I heard whispering behind me. Another voice admitted that city people are all a little strange. At least it's not hot, I told myself. The city of Jailing, and indeed the entire province, can rightly be described as the most prosperous place in the Earth Kingdom. Tons of varied items arrive in the city each day, and an equal amount of cargo departs. Even well-known cities like Omashu and Ba Sing Se pale in comparison. At the moment, the city of the Baifeng family serves as the nation's beating heart, bringing vitality to the entire country. Trade routes, like veins, ring every province, connecting even the most remote and forgotten communities. The Flying Bison's numerous connections and trusted persons in various circles of society make him virtually untouchable. High-ranking officials in the Fire Nation's army are fully aware of the economic condition, but the information they have obtained is sufficient to conclude one thing. Capturing this region would come at a high cost. Even the most cynical individuals can be moved to patriotism by these traitors' reputations. Furthermore, a fraction of the Earth Kingdom's regular army ensures that enemies won't even consider attacking. So, how'd I look? Toph questioned me, slightly embarrassed. She was dressed in what seemed like a traditional Chinese kippao. Absolutely stunning, I said without a hint of deception. Her usual attire appeared to subtract a few years from her age, but in this festive dress, with a somewhat more grown-up hairstyle, I realized she was now 11 and a half. "Let's go for a walk now," she said, attempting to conceal her shame. "Where's June?" I said, as she appeared to want to join us. "She said she changed her mind," Toph explained gently. All right, let's go then," I answered, but her response seemed dubious. Nonetheless, I opted not to pursue the subject. "Come on," I said, extending my hand to her. With so many individuals there, it was preferable to hold hands. "So tender," she said as our hands touched. "Where are my calluses from earthbending training now?" I thought to myself, slightly annoyed. Those intense training sessions with Roku had made an impression on all of my bodies, so I wasn't the only one who received such embarrassing comments. For the first 2 days, the female workers at the chief's palace frequently questioned Naruto about the goods she used. Today, almost 80% of the Earth Kingdom's population celebrates the Day of Fertility, one of the oldest celebrations honored by the Earth and Fire nations for generations. The Water tribes were not included since they did not pursue agriculture due to the difficulty of growing crops under perpetual winter. It is thought that on this day, no one should labor or do anything physically or intellectually hard. Instead, it is critical to have fun and be happy. Positive emotions are said to help crops grow better and stronger over the course of a year. Over time, intelligent people have developed several loopholes and exceptions to the holiday, arguing, those who bring joy to others can work. After all, such days are an opportunity to make a lot of money. Who would pass that up? So now we may spend money on different games and food vendors. Today, the festively decked city reminded me of the holiday vibe from anime. People were laughing and moving from one stall to another. There were activities with rewards and tantalizing odors from food being cooked outside. Look, they're selling sweets over there. Let's go. Toph's tiny nose twitched amusingly as she detected the aroma of something sweet, and undeniably delicious, in the air. Along the route, we met members of the Jang and Ganjin tribes, who had moved near the city. Their, should we say, eccentric costumes attracted a lot of attention from passers-by. It's high time we moved in with other people, commented a small group of Jang men and women nearby, who were noisily munching street food. I wish I had 2 stomachs to try all of this food, one of them shouted enthusiastically. Such behavior has become commonplace. Over time, the city's population becomes used to the visitors. It's also worth noting that this is a completely commercial metropolis. Every day, people from all walks of life come here. Excuse me, ma'am, I recently bought earthbending enhancement products from you. I like them and would like to try a different scent, stated a representative of the Ganjin tribe on the other side. Despite being near tribes, there are significant variances. However, small groups and even couples from these various tribes could be observed on occasion. After entering an unknown area, they learned they had a lot in common. A cultural exchange started. The Jang tribe has long been known for their hunting abilities, yet sometimes entire generations are born without any skilled earthbenders. This caused them to adjust their way of life to that of the common people. The Ganjin tribe had a long tradition of making different herbal infusions. Furthermore, their community placed a high emphasis on art. Poetry, painting, calligraphy, and other creative endeavors were popular. Look over there, that funny uncle you brought. Toph pointed at the mechanist in an unaristocratic manner. I'm still not used to calling him by his real name. It's not polite to point like that, I told her, though my words were unlikely to have much influence. I don't think she needs to change. People like her candor and simplicity. I'm not sure how much effort Rin expended to drag her husband away from his craft. He was now viewing the activities with equal curiosity. As always, an aura of disarray surrounded him, and even a well-fitted suit couldn't change that. There were additional northern residents nearby. Lao couldn't simply aid one community. He quickly invited all those affected by the tragedies to relocate with him. The construction is almost done, I thought. A vast parcel of land near the city center had been designated as the Earth Kingdom's second university. The size of the project and the amount of money invested suggest that it will outperform even the first university of Ba Sing Se. Especially when Lao oversees everything. Such seemingly spontaneous behaviors occurred just after Lao and the mechanist met. It appears that Ran's views and thinking had a significant impact on the trader. Knowledge is power, and technology and machines set the new rules of the game. That was exactly what Lao told me that day. His team has already begun looking for bright minds to help improve science. The Earth University, as its simple name suggests, has already begun to attract people such as the mechanist. Rin was appointed as the institution's director after she gave her consent. There were many possibilities, but she possessed all of the necessary characteristics. She has successfully managed the settlement for many years, has the knowledge to conduct a thorough appraisal of activities, and, of course, her lengthy affiliation with someone like her husband is advantageous. I recently learned that they had already developed and built the prototype tank. There were no engines or anything like that. It was similar to those utilized during the siege of the capital on the day of the eclipse. It is ostensibly designed to withstand multiple larger shells and is covered with thick armor plates that readily extinguish the conqueror's fire strikes, but all of this will need to be tested in practice. The caterpillar tracks help it overcome numerous hurdles along the journey. However, its greatest benefit is its capacity to crush enemy shooting positions or defensive structures. Special detachable hatches allow earthbenders to assault their opponents. For this purpose, a supply of stones will be kept within. The tank's movement is powered by non-benders inside, similar to the concept behind Ba Sing Se's monorails. The army has long required something hefty, but mass production of such a machine is unlikely to occur anytime soon. The manufacturing capabilities simply do not exist. Lao trading caravans will appear menacing with such security. This is what was already created. As far as I know, Lao has received the design schematics for the Fire Nation's ships. Based on their ideals, the mechanist has begun to create the world's first genuine machine. According to the records, the support truck we saw in the animated series will emerge considerably sooner. I was curious to learn how Lao collected such records. In answer, I got a bitter smile. Apparently, someone paid a high price for such a huge acquisition. He claims they've been scorching his palms for the past 5 years. Only the Fire Nation is aware that something has been stolen from them, thus they will not tolerate even a hint about new sorts of ships being manufactured somewhere. Lao couldn't have done it another way. There were no experts in his circle who could create something unique based on these records. The only choice was to repeat what was written exactly, which was unlikely to be error-free. The mechanist's presence and subsequent conversation, during which he exhibited the records, swayed his opinion. I've been staring at the water for so long, forgetting that the earth is my homeland, he added, chuckling. I also made sure not to be forgotten by paying him numerous visits. I didn't only come to talk. I also wanted to nudge him in the right way. Perhaps the air temple inspired him to conquer the skies through science. I'm not one to sit quietly by, so I gently guided him toward building a controllable hot air balloon. I have the necessary knowledge to develop it myself, but it would take 5 to 10 years. Yes, I have a tremendous amount of knowledge, but I struggle to organize it into a logical notion. It appears that I was not strong in this area even in my previous life. I can easily memorize all of the material, but using it appropriately is the struggle. History is being written before my eyes. Such thoughts came to mind as I studied the mechanist's archives. A growing number of individuals are driven by a passion for science. Why didn't you wait for me? Jun's irritated voice interrupted us as we were savoring another delicacy. I thought you didn't want to come, I asked, raising my eyebrow. When did I? She started, but then stopped. We all looked at Toph, who was already moving away from us. Everything fell into place. Oh, you little liar, I'll show you now. Come here, Toph chuckled, dashing away from her. Poppy will give you both what for, I reasoned. That nice woman had selected their attire for today. She won't accept carelessness with clothes, especially expensive ones. I wonder who'll end up completely ruining the dress, I joked. The kippao in June was magnificent. The slit brilliantly accentuated her slim, beautiful legs. The difference was especially noticeable in the top area, where her figure would not typically produce such massive structures. June has become a part of my existence. In such a short time, she's undoubtedly captured a piece of my heart that isn't already held by Yui, Katara, Kaya, Suki, Shizuka, Toph, Drea, Azula, and Ursa. She continues to work as normal, but devotes less time to it today. She's also limited her scope to only one province, and Lao is the only one assigning her tasks. Shirshu, like any dog, needs regular outings. While dogs merely need to be taken outside, Shirshu must be kept in peak physical and olfactory condition, with tasks requiring them to locate specific persons or places. Huh, now you'll be short legs. The slightly untidy females appeared. June grabbed Toph tightly in her arms, almost like a chokehold. I'm still growing, you know, Toph exclaimed. I smiled and added, it's nice to see your friendship on display. Let's go for a walk. Enough of shocking people, I told them. After all, it isn't every day that you witness Lao Baifeng's daughter followed by a fiery girl. We still have a few hours remaining, and I want to enjoy them as much as possible. The library inside the Fire Lord's palace. Lemonade warning. You have been warned. During the day of fertility celebrations, Juan and Ursa were said to be buried in texts accumulated during generations of the Fire Lord's dominion. The majority of the reading area was completely dark, with only a little island of light providing adequate illumination for comfortable reading. The Fire Nation's citizens, particularly those who work continually in the palace, get few days off. Today, thanks to the holiday, the entire palace appeared vacant, with nearly all employees sent home to spend time with their families. Perhaps the most lively portion was the wing where Fire Lord Ozai lived. His diligent guards continued to monitor their designated area for any strange sounds or movements. Ah, if anyone else had been around, they would have undoubtedly heard that wonderful moan, and some might have been surprised to find who it was. Ursa attempted to resist, but the pleasure running through her body had other plans. Bless whoever invented this day of fertility. After all, it was the only day she could spend alone with her boyfriend without being watched. Juan had already studied the weak spots of the Fire Lord's wife, so one of his fingers was busy inside her wet folds, while the other gently caressed her anus. Definitely no observers. Juan's senses were completely engaged. Regardless of how much he craved Ursa, he did not succumb to lust. Juan exhibited his firebending skill by unbuttoning all of Ursa's garments in seconds after their secret was guaranteed. The edges of her loosened robe touched the ground. Her red panties dropped to the floor, moist from her desire. Juan may now act freely. Her uncovered body quickly displayed her huge, perky breasts, which, despite nursing and having 2 children, appeared as beautiful and tempting as ever. Her Kai training paid off as her body had the perfect curves and shapes. Looking at her, there was nothing to add or subtract. One of the most beautiful women I've ever seen. Juan's eyes showed both admiration and longing. He wanted to finally have her entirely so badly. They're right when they say that men love with their eyes. Forgive me, Ekum, forgive me, my children. She sometimes thought things like this, as if they were trying to take away her chance at happiness, but I want to live for myself, too. Ursa lay down on the chair a minute later. Her front, which was now exposed, showed slightly red lips that shone with wetness in the light. Let me please you, too, the woman said, and then she rapidly fell to the floor. Juan's erect member was right in front of her. I hope I survive this monster, she said, because today she had made up her mind to end their relationship. Ursa put his big penis between her big breasts and licked him all over. She kissed the head of his member every so often as she moved up and down. Juan's heavy breathing was the best sign that she was working hard. She realized she still wasn't very skilled at giving oral pleasure, so she decided to use her strengths. This wasn't enough for Juan for long. He stood up from the chair and decided to help himself. He started to thrust inside her mouth while holding her breasts tightly. His grasp only got stronger, and there was no doubt that his hands would leave red traces. Harder. Yes. Rougher. She yelled. She didn't think she would like being treated more roughly. Only I can be satisfied with this body, right? Juan himself knew what she liked in bed. In a way, she was the first woman he had who liked being treated this way. Maybe so many years without love made her this way, but an orgasm that was getting closer stopped him from thinking about it any longer. He pulled Ursa's long hair and leaned her head back a little, opening her lips. Soon, his member went in and started to empty his full balls right away. Ursa gulped it all down with a big, Don't waste a drop, she thought. As soon as she started sipping his seed, Ursa sensed subtle alterations in her body. It's important to remember that any of Juan's fluids have turned into medicine. For years, every cell in his body had been marinating in huge volumes of pure life energy. She felt more invigorated as the thick, milky liquid moved down her body. She quickly stood up and leaned on a neighboring bookshelf with one hand. With the other, she flipped her robe over her back, showing off her snow-white, luscious backside, which even the curviest women in the Earth Kingdom would be jealous of. Ursa was ready to make the last step, which would change her life forever. There was no way to go back. A month ago, she had made up her mind. Yes, she told herself that initially, she was only charmed by Juan's good looks and gorgeous figure. But time showed that he was more than that. For years, one sensitive place had wanted to be filled. This sensation got stronger after Azula was born. She would sometimes stay up all night fiddling with her folds. She wanted a real person, not a sad copy with her fingers. Plus, Azula and Zuko like him. Her kids were very important to her, thus it was important that they got along with him. Yes, she hadn't always been a good mother, but now she was attempting to be one by giving both her son and daughter equal time. All of these thoughts came to her mind in an instant as Juan walked up behind her. His presence alone made her feel more aroused. His hands were warm and loving, but they made her feel safe. Now they were holding her butt and squeezing the meatiest regions a few times. Can I come in? His heated breath made her ear feel like it was burning. Ursa could only nod now. They were done with their passion after a while. In the lower ring of Ba Sing Se. In one mansion, just like 1,000 others built quickly by the conquerors of the Earth Kingdom, a secret meeting took place. In the biggest space, which was only 20 square meters, people of different socioeconomic classes stood or sat close together in different clothes. Even though there were many groups, everyone there was unified by one idea. Is everyone here? One of them looked around the crowded room with his brown eyes. Someone sitting down said coldly, "Toph isn't here." His remarks made others whisper in fear. The first person said with confidence, "Dai Li probably already took her." Everyone believed it. What they were doing was odd on its own, but Toph had been trying to get information from Dai Li agents. Did they find her report? The Baifeng family, who are experts in earthbending and spying, created their advanced communication system just for this purpose. Yes, it says she couldn't learn anything. Minds are completely washed. The person in charge of messaging shook his head. Not a big deal. That's what we thought would happen, said another person at the meeting. None of them thought they would get good news, but it was worth a shot. They had a tie this week. They didn't learn anything from the secret police agent, and Dai Li wouldn't learn anything from their person either. They all focused on their own tasks and didn't even try to guess what the other person was doing. These activities kept the enemy from understanding the whole story, which made it look like people were moving in a disconnected and chaotic way. This house was home to only one of the Baifeng family's many active groups. So, even if everyone here got arrested, other people would keep doing what they were supposed to do. We have 6 months to a year left. The leader clasped his hands. We need to get as much information as we can, especially about those strange things that made almost all of the Dai Li agents go down to the old underground city. Long Feng has started working hard to take full control of the Earth Kingdom. The only thing that got in the way was the leadership of the capital. The Flying Boar was already in charge of the other provinces, either officially or secretly. After 97 years of the air nomad genocide. Roku. Mountains of Kolau. The southwestern Earth Kingdom is home to a huge mountain range. The city of Omashu and the famous Cave of Two Lovers are here. Most Badgermalies live in this province, which is thought to be where earthbending began. Also, the oldest historical documents show that the people who are today known as the Earth Nation started their voyage in this province. I said to Lao, who was sitting next to me, there are some pretty mixed rumors about Bumi. I was trying to push the conversation toward the issue that interested me. You've met him several times. Can you tell me anything about him? Right now, we're in a carriage on our way to Omashu. King Bumi's birthday is in 2 days. He's supposed to be turning 108, but maybe it's 107. Lao said that he doesn't even know the actual amount. Bumi himself won't tell you, though. He loves to joke, claiming, I've gotten a year younger again. As Lao said, the birthday is just an excuse to see Toph. Lao and I have important things to talk to him about. The day we take Ba Sing Se is coming up soon. Lao stated with a heavy sigh, this is one of those times when the rumors are true. The people of the town say they sometimes hear laughter. Very familiar, with a hint of madness. So, the king is still riding the postal system rails. No, I shouldn't get into the rumors about him. I still care about my sanity. Yeah, but he's never boring. Toph raised her fist in agreement. Once, he took Toph for a ride on the slides, Lao said, putting extra emphasis on the last word. I almost went gray, and I've kept it a secret from Poppy ever since. It feels like the whole postal system is just his amusement park, Lao said, shaking his head. I wouldn't mind going for a ride myself, I said without thinking. No, just for scientific reasons, I said, waving my hands in denial and observing Lao's strange look. Just don't bring Toph with you, he muttered, and then even more quietly, it seems the canyon guide was right. The more gifted a person is with Kai, the more strange things they do. His words aren't without reason. I also stopped for a while to think over the random saying. I can't say anything specific. You just never know what's going on in his head, Lao said, widening his palms. He might show up to an event in nothing but his underwear or bring one of his cute pets. For a while, I helped him collect different rare and exotic animals. Some of them had never been tamed before, but after a while, I saw them obeying Bumi's every command through his earthbending. Yeah, but Flopsy's still the best, Toph said. You can't do that, Bumi. It looks like you've spent too much time with little Toph. Who's picked up your bad habits? Be careful around him, okay? Lao remarked, giving up on the pandemonium around the king. The most important thing is that Toph has never been hurt. King Bumi takes good care of her. Don't believe what he says or does, Lao said more seriously. People are starting to forget how strong he is. He didn't get the title of king for nothing. The king has always been the strongest earthbender born in Omashu. He has done many great things in his life. Even I, the descendant of the man who raised him, must show him respect. Yes, in this world, personal strength and power are still the most important things in all relationships. Bumi can do whatever he wants, even if he gets more weirder. People won't care. There have been no problems in Omashu since it was founded, and that's a wonderful thing. The king of Omashu isn't a protest against Ba Sing Se's power. It's proof that this city can stand even when the capital collapses. The people of the Earth Nation look for safety behind the king of Omashu, a temporary, invisible shield. How's Jun doing? She's been given things to do too. The Dai Li needs to find people who can help her. It's not very likely that they have any secret knowledge. Well, I guess there's no need to worry. They're only looking for regular people, and she's with Lao's trusted earthbending guards. I wanted to go with her at first. What could be more romantic than hunting down a man together? I think nothing. But I wanted to meet Bumi in person. I'm sorry, my love. I traded you for a strange old man. The city finally came into view after a day of travel. Built on a large hill, it resembled a mountain more than anything. The enemy couldn't even surround it. A thin stone bridge is the only way into the city. If there is an attack, it could fall down right away, cutting off all access. But human ingenuity can change much, as happened when the Fire Nation displayed the power of technology, seizing the Earth Kingdom's second most populated city using retractable bridges. 3 strong barriers 10 meters high protect Omashu. They only open when all freight and people have been thoroughly checked. The animated show made fun of how Aang entered the city by dressing up as an old man. But in actuality, the guards at the entryway aren't simply 3 earthbenders. There are many more. The king's palace is at the top, 50 meters above the 10-meter-high gates. As far as I know, it doesn't have any normal doors or windows. Everything opens and closes using earthbending. Guests can become prisoners in a flash, just like Team Avatar did. Somehow, the city makes me think of the air nomad temples, but it also makes me think of Minas Tirith, the capital of Gondor. And these postal lines look like aqueducts. There are just too many things that come to mind when I think of this metropolis. The stone bridge we're crossing right now only has 2 lanes, one for entering the city and one for leaving. Lao says that today isn't even very busy, so inspections take time. Lord Lao, a guard said as he bowed to us, please let us check your cargo. Even Lao isn't free from the severe checks. Lao quietly responded, of course, of course. Bumi trains them well, he said, and as he spoke the name of their king, a few troops looked a little pale. All areas of life should have this level of professionalism. Toph's dad gets too excited sometimes. We looked at each other and got ready for another one of Lao's lectures. Everything's fine. Your escort is waiting for you at the entrance, the guard said as he stepped aside and pointed to another guy who opened the gates for us. I whistled, so many people. This is my first trip to Omashu, and so far, it's been great. During my travels, I decided to save the larger cities for last, thus Ba Sing Se is still waiting for its turn. Yes, there are a lot of people, Lao acknowledged, as if he had been in a similar situation before. But the higher you go, the fewer people there are. We stopped for a moment to say hello to the soldier who would take us to the palace. He pointed around the room and said, the lower part of the city, its first level, is the business center where all the action is. Shops, traders, inns. It's all right here. Some people never leave their district because they can easily get what they need from the postal office nearby. The postal system handles deliveries both ways with ease. Homes and different industries are higher up. In a minute, we were on a stone platform that would work like an elevator and take us to the summit quickly. Lao asked me, what do you think the city's biggest problem is? I said as I looked around and saw a spiral road where other people were going up or down. Most likely, our platform. I tapped it. It's not a public mode of transportation. Most people use that winding road every day to get to work and back, using up their time and energy. Great observation and conclusion. Lao said with a smile. That's right. They couldn't build that many elevators, so they chose the spiral road during construction. I shook my head and said, not an ideal solution. These postal lines could be made more people-friendly. Make the lines a little wider, add a few more branches, and put in enclosed cabins with 1 earthbender each. They could speed up or slow down as needed. I don't know, even the idea of riding at such a high speed and height made Lao uneasy. He said, it's a good idea, though. I think it's right for the ruler of this city. Toph nodded and said, Boomy would definitely like it. We got to the palace level after a while. From here, one could see the city and the mountains around it in a stunning way. A strange-looking old man with a goofy headgear was waiting for us at the door. At first and even second glance, King Boomy looked like a senile old guy. The way things were around him made that impression much stronger. Little Toph, the stranger who looks like the famous Roku, and Lao, who always hid behind his father when I was around. Boomy was just how I thought he would be. When I looked at Lao, I saw that his face had turned red. Boomy, Toph went to him happily but then stopped. "You look older than I thought you would," she observed, "but you're still great. Who taught you such nice words?" He laughed heartily and hugged Toph. His smile was so bright when he saw her that even the age spots on his face seemed to fade. "So, they restored your sight. Well, it was all Roku's fault. We were caught right away." "Oops. I didn't tell you anything." Toph even turned away from Lao and me. Boomy hit his chest and said, "You know me. I never tell secrets." He asked, "The same Roku you wrote about?" In an odd way, looking at me with his mismatched eyes as if through a rifle scope. "Feels like I'm asking my girlfriend's dad for her hand in marriage. Have I done this before? Okay, you must be tired from the trip. Let's eat." He showed how to walk with a wide, springy step that didn't suit with such an old man. Peak of the highest rank. I didn't anticipate anything less, yet there was something deep about his energy, like that of old spirits. It felt like the ground under his feet was always giving him energy. Give him a few hundred more years, and he'd be the first ancient-level earthbender. And his life energy is as strong as that of the elderly healers in the healing huts. I only half listened to Lao and Boomy talk while I sat at the table. In any case, all the important talks will happen behind closed doors. Boomy waved a chicken leg and shouted, "That rat won't give up his power so easily. He's definitely up to something." Lao nodded and said, "I think so too." Toph hopped up from the table after rapidly finishing her lunch and said, "I'm going to see Flopsy." Boomy grinned and said, "He missed you too. Go ahead." Lao abruptly rose up and said, "I'm done eating too." Toph, hold on. There was an uncomfortable hush around the table. Boomy was staring at me so hard that I didn't know where to look. It's too bad there isn't a smartphone here. I could just immerse myself in it and sit still. Oh, my cough was too loud. "Do you know an earthbender named Aang?" "Yes, I had a friend like that," he said, looking further deeper. "Why do you want to know?" I responded, "Earthbender names are not often repeated. And in some records I found, it says that the last avatar was a boy named Aang. Could that be your friend?" "Yes." Yo eventually located the records he needed in the library. That bald kid who was humorous was the last avatar in this world. I needed someone who knew him to confirm it. Boomy groaned and said, "Yes, that's the year he went missing. There's a chance he is still alive." "That's possible too." "What? You aren't even going to ask how I came to this conclusion or a host of other questions to make things clearer? I promised myself I'd be the last to leave this life." He added with a cruel laugh, "And since I'm still here, someone must still be out there." He waved his hand and calmed down. I hadn't ruled it out myself. If the Fire Nation had captured him, they'd still be bragging about taking the Avatar. If he were alive, he wouldn't have survived the genocide of his people. He'd definitely start acting against the Fire Nation. So, he stopped talking and motioned for me to come closer. "Well, I think he's in the spirit world." "What? Again? Probably having fun with some hot spirits right now," he added with real envy. "Please come back soon, Lao and Toph," I thought. The most important thing I learned is that Aang is Aang. Here is the rewritten version with Avatar. The last airbender words instead of magic and fantasy words, but the main premise stays the same. Boomy stopped making jokes and asked me in all seriousness where I got my information on the Avatar. I had to think on my feet and make up something that sounded like the truth right away. I knew that Aang might still be floating in his natural, cryogenic chamber, because of the animated series. After talking to the Earth King, the possibilities of that happening went through the roof. Boomy looked at me attentively and remarked, "I have this feeling that you're about to make a big breakthrough in earthbending. It's no surprise that he's been walking this earth for so long. The Earth Kingdom doesn't have the same kind of push that the Fire Nation got from the dragons. People don't get these ideas. Low, mid, and high. It's all determined on how well you can manipulate the element. There are students, average benders, and masters. They don't have gates that, when you go through them, give you a big boost, as I do. I got a lot of benefits when I moved from middle school to high school, so to speak. The development of the elements in everyone else is slow. To make things easier for me, I started putting everyone into groups based on the spirits themselves. You would expect a master who has spent their whole life learning their element to have better Kai, not to mention more of it, which should also be top-notch. I agreed with him when he said, "It seems I'm just one step away. I've got something that might help you with that," he said, clapping his hands and looking at me with bright eyes. Something about his excitement doesn't sit right with me, but after all he's been through, he must have something spectacular up his sleeve. I want it, but it's dangerous. Oh well, let's see what happens. I'm definitely open to hearing your thoughts, I said carefully. Okay, sounds good. How about you answer one of my questions? Sounds good to me, I said right away. I caught wind of a chat about this guy Juan from the Green Flame family and an old swordmaster named Piandao. So, Juan was joking around, talking about the idea of splitting his body. Crazy, right? They think they see the truth where it actually is. I was caught off guard by that question. My mind was racing to think of an excuse, but Boomy just kept on talking. He mentioned that his good buddy is the well-known Roku from the Earth Kingdom. So, I've got to ask, are you and Juan actually the same person? Before I could even reply, he continued. Chances are, Naruto, the current chief of the Northern Water Tribe, is you as well? All four of my minds were working through the situation now. Boomy's definitely a character with some unique quirks that have just gotten more interesting over the years. He's definitely one of the strongest earthbenders out there, maybe even the strongest. Honestly, in both the animated series and real life, I haven't come across anything negative about him. Awesome. I feel like I can share a little more with him, and honestly, he's probably already pieced it together. Judging by your prolonged silence, come on, it's only been 2 seconds, it's all true, he said, chuckling. Even though I'm getting older, my mind's still as sharp as ever, he said, tapping his head. Yeah, that's right, I sighed. I hope this doesn't go any further, I asked, clasping my hands together with a bit of hope. Can you believe this old guy? He waved his hand, but when he noticed I was still a bit on edge, he added, okay, I promise I won't say a word. I need to watch what I say from now on. It worked out this time, but if anyone else found out, all my plans would be ruined. The water tribes are already in your pocket, he said, counting on his bony fingers. The Earth Kingdom's almost there too, he bent a second finger. And the Fire Nation's next in line, he whistled at the end. Looks like our world's in for some big changes, but what's it all for? The air around Boomy felt heavy, and if he didn't like the answer, he'd be ready to strike right away. In the next 15 minutes, I laid out what the future might look like, talked about the spirits, and shared what could happen to humanity if Vadu came out on top. Exciting times are ahead for our grandchildren and great-grandchildren, and even after I said that, Boomy still kept his optimism. I see now why you and Lao have been on the go. The earlier you get started on your preparations, the better off you'll be. We've been here a while, and it's getting late, he said, standing up from the table and tapping his foot on the ground, creating a little vibration. Before long, a passage opened up in the side wall, and the person who had brought us here stepped out. Boomy said to him, why don't you show our guest to his room? Please follow me, he said with a bow. We'll kick off your training tomorrow, the Earth King said with a nod, opening another door for himself. I thought my words would get a stronger reaction, but it seems that even this didn't impress him. I walked through the quiet halls of the palace. I didn't come across a single door the whole time. We took a break at one of the walls. Just as I was about to ask, my guide went ahead and opened a passage. The room was pretty simple, but it had everything I needed. Good night, Lord Roku, he said with a bow before heading out and shutting the passage behind him. Looks like they put some serious thought into this. Definitely saved a bunch on doors. After chatting a bit, I noticed that everything had gone smoothly. I'm curious about what Boomy's going to show me. But then I couldn't think of anything useful, so I decided to stop stressing and just go to sleep. So, this morning, Boomy showed up for breakfast in this flashy purple outfit, and you know what? Toph actually thought it looked great. Right after we finished eating, Boomy took me to the arena. The very place where he fought Aang in the series. I picked up this technique maybe 10 or 20 years back, he started, and any earthbender who knows how to tune into the earth can pick it up. Let me show you, and with a swift motion, he took off his outfit, showing off a lean, muscular torso that you'd never expect from someone his age. The arena had stones of all different sizes scattered around. Then, Boomy lifted his right foot just a bit and set it back down on the ground. The energy used was super low, like, not even enough to lift a pebble. But, a stone that was just a little way off suddenly broke apart into fragments. You got it? Boomy asked me. I have no idea, I replied, taking a good look at the area with all my senses. I thought so, he said quietly. You probably can already feel the movements and positions of things through your own vibrations, right? I nodded enthusiastically. You know, that's our issue. We've kind of lost touch with the Earth's vibrations. Boomy suggests that the Earth is alive, pulsing with its own rhythms, vibrations, and waves. Any of these work just fine. Since we're sensitive to seismic activity, we've decided to stop sensing them. Our own waves grab all our focus, making noise that drowns out these vibrations. So, your job is to get back in touch with how to hear the Earth. But that's just part of it. After you get through that, you'll have to adjust your vibrations to sync up with the Earth's. And trust me, they're always different. Some are shorter, some are longer, and some are stronger than others. You're tapping into its energy to boost your skills. That's pretty much what I just did, he said, gesturing to where the stone used to be. Just think about it. Using all your strength with the Earth's strongest vibration. You could totally lift a city, he exclaimed, clearly pumped to give it a shot. I think I understand how he managed to free his city all by himself when the Fire Nation took over it. In that episode, he was able to move whole buildings and neighborhoods without even stepping on the ground. It's pretty likely that his skills have grown, and he can pick up on those vibrations even without touching anything. You should totally check this out. What's next? I couldn't help but get swept up in his excitement. Well, that's all there is to it, he said with a shrug. Now it's your turn. This isn't quite what I was expecting. I figured there'd be some kind of secret training to help me pick things up quicker. Just a heads up, train outside the city. With your power, you could accidentally wreck my city, he said as he started getting dressed. Flopsy, Toph, and I are best friends, toot toot, la la la, and then he just strolled off, humming a little tune. I quickly made my way to a respectful distance from the city. I was eager to start looking for these waves right away. I started by turning off my sensory abilities because they were just clogging the channel with noise. I spent nearly half a day under the blazing sun, trying to figure things out, but it just wasn't happening. Earthquakes. Are they like the Earth's vibrations? It's worth a try. So, there I was, just standing there in a lightning storm, trying to get the hang of mastering lightning. I decided to jump into lava to open my chakra. Why not check out the heart of the action? Volcanoes could be a great option. They're just bursting with fire energy, which makes it easier to feel the Earth's presence. I said my quick goodbyes to Toph, Lao, and Boomy, letting them know I'd be back in about 4 or 5 days. I wasn't sure how long I'd be away, but I thought for sure there would be some good progress by that time. I went for the quickest way and just teleported to Wan when nobody was around. Let's head out from the west side. The guards there seem a bit less on their toes. I can't quite figure out why we're saying this out loud, so, there I was, thousands of kilometers away, staring down one of the most active volcanoes. It was wild to think that this would eventually create a new island for the Fire Nation. Alright, here goes, I said, stepping onto the almost cooled lava with my bare feet. It used to be a real struggle, but now my skin has totally adapted to those high temperatures, and honestly, I don't even feel it anymore. Before long, some strong tremors started shaking things up, and honestly, if I hadn't held my ground, I would have been knocked right off my feet. I couldn't feel the fresh lava flowing over my feet anymore, nor could I sense the air being pushed aside by the ash. I felt completely connected to the earth. Got it. The vibrations were definitely making those scorching gases and lava bubble up, almost like they were layering on top of each other. How about we give something a shot? So, one foot was lifted just a bit, and after a whole minute, it came back down, which caused this huge crack in the volcano, and right away, lava started flowing out. Meanwhile, my earthbending was changing. The Kai in it was changing and condensing in a noticeable way. Right now, my airbending feels like a little brother, just hanging around and waiting to mature. It turned out to be easier than I expected. Tuning into the vibrations from the earth felt more natural than figuring out the right key for a new patient in water healing. Perhaps that's what made it easier for me to grasp the concept so fast. I've noticed that my sensitivity range has gone up. The energy of the earth was just buzzing through me, totally ready to jump into action whenever I needed it. I've seen a big jump in all my skills. There was definitely a bit of discomfort. I just needed to get used to the new parameters. For the next couple of days, I spent some time practicing earthbending on the closest uninhabited island. Just out of curiosity, I thought I'd go all out and layer it on the strongest vibe I could find. Earth God Roku. I chuckled, taking in the aftermath of my hit. The little island just split right in half. I need to keep my wild urges under control. I was curious about how other things would shatter. So, on that same day, I just teleported over to Yi, and then I flew straight to Omashu. As Roku was getting the hang of some cool new bending skills, there were some pretty interesting things happening in other places too. Bumi and Toph were definitely up to something, and you could see Lao hanging around, looking pretty nervous about it. At the top of the postal service, something unusual was happening. Something that the employees had come to expect by now. Just once, please. Toph begged her beloved honorary grandfather, putting on the most pitiful face she could manage. Your parents are going to give me those disapproving looks again, Bumi said, shaking his head, but it was obvious this was a routine they both knew well. It was all about making sure people would say, "Our king fought until the very last moment. He's not at fault. No one will find out, right?" Toph asked, glancing at the two male handlers and the female worker. They gave a quick nod. Who would even think about speaking out against the ruler and the daughter of the most powerful person on the continent? Check out other places for the clueless. All right, you've got me there, you charming girl. Bumi gave in, or more like, let himself be swayed. With their backs turned to the rest, Toph and Bumi shared a playful wink. Sure, everyone could see all their movements clearly. Launch us, Bumi said, already settled in the cargo crate. Bumi nailed it when he said, when someone else launches you, the fun doubles. Come on, give it your best shot. Toph chimed in, looking at the nervous earthbenders, all of them unsure about who should take the leap. In the end, none of them wanted to get involved in this mess. They were well aware that Lord Lao wasn't too fond of his daughter's behavior. Okay. The younger handler accepted his situation, shutting his eyes as he leaned in. Yee-haw! Toph exclaimed with excitement, raising her arms in the air. Toph! Bumi! Just a moment later, Toph's furious dad stormed into the postal office, and his face was all kinds of trouble. Yes. We totally pulled it off. The two troublemakers exchanged high fives. Do you think we'll get another ride, my old friend? Bumi wondered, thinking about how the best descent had been with Aang, whose airbending helped them pick up speed. 2 hours later that same day, close to one of the inner walls, someone was letting their creativity flow. Toph stood there, her tongue poking out, looking super focused. She held a big brush, and black paint was slowly dripping from it onto the ground. Right there on the wall, someone had already scrawled, "Tough girl was here," in big letters. A man in a dark cloak stood nearby, looking a bit anxious. They didn't seem to mind their choice of disguise one bit. The handful of people walking by acted like they didn't see anything. It felt like even the experienced city guards were just choosing to ignore what was happening right in front of them. What are you up to over there? A young guard, who looked way younger than his uniform implied, yelled angrily at what he thought were troublemaking vandals. Just a heads up, this is city property. Messing with it can get you in trouble. Let's get out of here, the cloaked man shouted, his voice sounding all too familiar. Looks like we've been seen. You'll never catch us, art will live on, Toph shouted boldly, just as her partner scooped her up and took off, gliding smoothly over the ground. Why are you just standing there? Go catch them, the young guard called out, spotting his colleagues nearby, who seemed to be doing nothing at all. There were some pretty interesting chats going on among the people walking by, and they were nailing the situation perfectly. It's just so heartwarming to see our king so energetic, a fruit vendor said, almost wiping away tears. Yeah, it's like he comes to life around Lady Toph, his friend chimed in, nodding in agreement. Well, at least this time, he's switched it up a bit and isn't in his usual getup. A guard who had been there the whole time laughed. Oh, you remember that? He was rocking that purple robe, and pretty much everyone in the city knows it, his partner said with a playful grin. Looks like this guy's just starting out, he said, keeping an eye on the soldier still after Toph and Bumi. He'll sort it out before long, the first guard said with a cheeky grin. This was just something that newcomers had to go through in their line of work. So, that evening, we found ourselves at Flopsy's big enclosure. Flopsy. I've got my bets on you. Toph loves those earthbending chokeholds. Just make sure she doesn't get too close. Bumi waved his hands in excitement, cheering on his pet as it faced off against the humanoid stone figures Toph was controlling. No coaching, Toph exclaimed, as she guided the stone figures. What she created reflected how she moved. Shush, everyone, Boomy said, lifting his hands up. You can do it, Flopsy. The huge, strong paws of the local gorilla-goat hybrid held onto the stone figure's arms with a firm grip. Flopsy's little tail wagged like crazy, totally showing how excited he was. Just a minute later, we had our winner. The Earthbenders took the win. But you know what? There was no sadness because the loser got a consolation prize. Who's a good boy? Who just loves all the cuddles? Toph said, almost snuggling right into his fluffy belly fur. Finally, I found you, Lao said, panting a bit. We need to chat about something important. Boomy leaned in close to Toph and whispered. You know he only says, young lady, when he's mad, right? We should probably back off now. She nodded thoughtfully, taking in her old friend's advice. All right, Dad, I understand. I messed up, Toph said sweetly. Okay, let's grab some food. The table's all set, Lao said with a tired sigh. It's always the same thing, isn't it? Looks like they've been up to quite a bit while I was gone. Seeing the happy expressions on Boomy and Toph's faces, along with Lao's somewhat forced smile, I can pretty much figure out what's been going on inside these city walls. Wow. Your fame lives up to your strength. I honestly didn't think you'd pick up this earthbending technique so fast. Boomy looked truly impressed. I want a super cool earthbending technique too, Toph said, raising her hand. Don't worry, we'll get you up to speed soon enough, Boomy said, gesturing with his food like he always does. You're just starting out, so why not experiment with vibrations in a different way during your free time? I've faced this challenge too. It feels like those ground waves are only meant for destruction, and figuring out how to redirect them is tough. I haven't cracked it yet. Lao, Roku, I noticed a couple of rough spots in your plan, King Boomy mentioned after he wrapped up his salad. Lao and I got a little more lively. This is pretty much the reason we came to see him. Given his experience, he could definitely share some helpful advice. Lao and Boomy had already gone over a bunch of points, making some tweaks and adding things here and there. Lao has already won the hearts of our people, but they still view Roku as just a soldier who can only manipulate Earth, Boomy said straightforwardly. HMPH, they don't know anything, Toph scoffed. Roku can do anything. Those words are going to stick with me for a while. Absolutely. But, he said, raising a finger, they should be aware of that as well. Have you thought about your plan yet? We're going to make Roku the king of Omashu. He banged the table, almost toppling off his throne. He fiddled with his odd headpiece and carried on like it was no big deal, saying, I've been on the hunt for a successor for ages, and I think this will show he's got some smarts too. Even Toph didn't say a word. We all found ourselves thinking the same thing. Is it that simple? I've got it all covered. You'll see it all come together tomorrow. I chose to keep my thoughts to myself. If Boomy said it, you can bet something's going to work out for sure. Plus, it would set me up nicely for my future rise to the throne. The king of Omashu is the top aristocrat who, following the demise of the whole royal family of Ba Sing Se, could step up to lead the nation. The following day, Boomy took Toph and me right to the central square, where it seemed like almost half of the merchants were hanging out. I thought it would be a good idea to set up a few experimental transport lines for faster travel while we still had the chance. I had no idea you were one of us, Boomy chuckled, slapping his knee. Let's share the fun of riding with everyone. That's Roku for you, Toph said with a grin. It seemed like no one got me. Before long, we were right in the middle of the city, in its most bustling area. Boomy stood there, and suddenly, a platform of earth formed beneath us, lifting us up until it reached about 3 meters high. As the earth expanded, people began to take notice of us. Guess what? I've found a successor. It's your favorite Roku. The nemesis of bandits. The nightmare for firebenders. The heartbreaker. The more Boomy went on, the more my ears turned crimson. And you know what the worst part was? Everyone in the Earth Kingdom knew all these nicknames. I want to share my thoughts with those inventors. In the western part of the country, Shang, who started the Bard group, the singing nomads, let out a sneeze. The listeners were torn. Change isn't exactly everyone's favorite thing, is it? Everyone loved and respected King Boomy, but they knew he wasn't immortal. So, if someone else is going to take charge, why not Roku? Could it be that he's got more than just earthbending skills? Questions like that were buzzing around in their heads. He's always been my student. Wait, what? You know how I can be, right? Strict but wise, I told him. Don't come back until your name is on everyone's lips in our kingdom. And just like that, the people looked at me with even more respect. That's it from my side. The crowd started chatting quietly with one another. I can't believe we're going to be talking about this for another month. I had no idea it would get so detailed that I just want to hide away. No need to stress, I've taken care of everything. Got the paperwork sorted and some smart folks to handle it, he said, giving me a reassuring pat on the shoulder. You'll be in my seat for a couple of years, find someone to take over, and then take on even bigger responsibilities. He laughed, already picturing the mess Lau and I would have to sort out after Long Feng. So, Bumi shared with me how they managed to keep those overly confident officials in line in their city. Back in the day, these roles were filled by regular folks who didn't have any bending skills. Back in the day, they often tended to push the limits of their authority a bit. At first, they were let off the hook, given another shot to make things right, and added to a list. The second time, they met their end while still very much alive, trapped in creeping crystal or genomites. They had these genomite rings forced onto them, and as they grew, they ended up covering their whole bodies and cutting off their oxygen supply. They might have dragged out their struggle by, trying to lick their way to air, but it didn't help them in the end. So, we're talking about horror movies, right? The close relatives of the offenders ended up being shunned, having to work their way back to their previous standing over many years. The law applies to everyone, and it has the same tough consequences for those who are gifted too. Also, Omashu, even with its size and big population, has been kind of brewing in its own little world, and the folks there know each other well. The system is still running perfectly even now. Bumi can keep up his antics with Toph because of that. One more reason for putting in place those strict punishments is to give the king some time to build up his own strengths. It has become clear to me why Omashu is regarded as a state within a state. It appears that I have already integrated into this environment, as I did not even consider questioning such a situation. Roku Omashu Palace. I chose to be more than just a nominal successor to Bumi. I also engaged in the city's affairs by gaining a thorough understanding of its operations. During the following 2 days, I conducted a careful observation of the activities of officials across different levels and examined several documents. Have you considered implementing your concept of transporting individuals along earthbending lines? Bumi proposed. The community would certainly value it. For this purpose, I was assigned 2 lines that would not considerably affect the overall system. If only the mechanist were here, he would resolve this matter swiftly, I sighed to myself, having dedicated hours to designing a new mode of transport. To guarantee the system's success, I needed to take into account the weight, length, and width of the cabins. Furthermore, modifications were required for the earthbending rails to enhance safety measures. Flight 32, I observed a slight rocking at maximum speed, indicating a potential risk of cabin derailment, I noted. Indeed, the number of attempts to produce a satisfactory outcome has exceeded 10. Progress was being made, and based on my calculations, the final result is expected to be achieved after 20 flights. By the end of the day, we will certainly have completed our tasks. Roku, this situation is excessively comfortable. There is no sense of danger. Everything feels slow and uninteresting, Toph expressed. She participated as one of the test riders. That is the expected outcome, I responded. Did they genuinely believe I intended to expedite the process? Their primary responsibility would involve transporting designated groups of individuals downhill, for whom elevated speeds could pose risks. The main passengers would include individuals with disabilities, senior citizens, and expectant mothers who experienced difficulties during the descent. Each cart has the capacity to accommodate 6 individuals, and a single line would effectively serve an entire district. The sole disadvantage, which eclipsed numerous benefits, was the lack of capability to transport residents uphill. The route was designated as one-way, necessitating their return on foot. To facilitate a round trip, a moderately skilled earthbender would be required to lift the significant weight of 6 individuals. Such individuals were not a cost-effective choice for employment. Consequently, only those earthbenders with lesser abilities would manage the operations of the lines. Steps were designed to facilitate the movement of the cart back uphill. The design was adjusted by elevating the base, which resulted in greater energy conservation for the workers. The concept was straightforward and unambiguous. At the front of the cart was a designated driver's seat, where the earthbender on duty would sit with ease. They would accompany each journey, utilizing their kai to adjust the pace as required. Subsequently, they would elevate the cart and carry out the procedure again. Eventually, a new earthbender, brimming with vitality, would assume their role. To enhance safety, an additional earthbender would be positioned at the bottom to assist in halting the cart if required. The official launch of the new mode of transportation occurred on the 3rd day. I believe it is best to leave such matters to those with expertise, while I focus on utilizing earthbending to address any disruptions effectively. I would like to test your new technology, stated an unfamiliar elderly gentleman, the first to step forward as a volunteer. Subsequently, others slowly found the confidence to embark. Please proceed, I instructed, positioning myself directly behind them. I was aware that everything had undergone thorough checks multiple times, yet I chose to monitor closely during the initial trips. After approximately 40 seconds, we concluded. I am pleased to report that my assistance was not required. There was no noticeable impact. It is incredibly convenient. Thank you, Mr. Roku. The initial passengers promptly expressed their feedback and extended their gratitude to me. Please remember to express your gratitude to the earthbenders who will be transporting you each time, I stated. A young guard was promptly encircled by appreciative residents. He genuinely warranted the recognition. At the conclusion of the day, I discreetly navigated the city to collect feedback. Overall, attendees appreciated the experience and were unfazed by the necessity of ascending the hill using traditional methods. I believe the University of Earth will soon discover talented individuals enthusiastic about advancing all aspects, I considered. The name Roku has evolved beyond being merely a deterrent for bandits. One day, Boomy presented his research on seismic waves to me. The most notable technique was one that undermined an individual internally, and in theory, it could potentially eliminate a specific group of spirits. I have observed that every living organism comprises minute particles of earth, he stated with some hesitation. Basic earthbending is insufficient to manage them, however, through the use of seismic waves, these particles can turn lethal. It became clear to me that earth particles pertain to the metals contained within an individual. Through manipulation, we effectively compromise the integrity of the organism. To the best of my recollection, metals constitute approximately 3% of an individual's body. A noteworthy amount. Not only can waterbending be violent, he refrained from demonstrating the technique, opting instead to explain its principle, yet even through his words, it was evident why he hesitated to disclose it. However, he still informed me about it, I reflected. Probably, he had already welcomed me into his inner circle. The final day in Omashu commenced in an unusual and perplexing manner. All personnel, from the culinary staff to the security team, appeared notably subdued, their movements nearly inaudible. Lau, are you aware of the current situation? Toph and I directed our attention towards him. This is not my narrative, and I am not meant to be informed, he stated softly, offering an apologetic shrug. Toph expressed her dissatisfaction with that response. It was clear that this situation was related to her grandfather Boomy, who had not shown up for breakfast. That persistent individual. Due to his actions, I find myself ascending this height annually. An elderly voice was heard nearby. The voice steadily drew nearer, and shortly thereafter, its origin became visible. An elderly gentleman approached us with deliberate steps, supported by a wooden cane. Where is that king? He didn't even take the time to meet with me, he reiterated, maintaining his tone. Toph swiftly recognized that he possessed knowledge of a particular matter. Sir, do you require assistance? She inquired, promptly taking her place beside him. Who here is considered old? I remain as capable as ever, he retorted, but upon recognizing the speaker, his attitude changed slightly. Unexpectedly, he exhibited a notable increase in kindness, albeit in a selective manner. Excuse me, why are you just standing there? There is a blind girl in need of assistance, please help her promptly, the elderly man asserted to us. Shortly thereafter, we provided clarification on the situation. Toph, determined to uncover any hidden information, firmly grasped the old man's arm and inquired about his business at the palace. Today marks the anniversary of my sister's passing, and that individual, who continues to behave immaturely, has taken all her possessions, he stated, clearly alluding to Boomy. Each year, my joints and bones bear the consequences of the decisions made by those who designed this city, he continued, appearing keen to elaborate. Who among us is considered old? I still feel quite youthful. This sentiment has been expressed to us previously. Boomy unexpectedly materialized right beside us. I arrange for earthbenders to escort you to the palace on each occasion. I do not require your assistance, the first elderly gentleman exclaimed. That is enough. Engaging in conversation with you is quite challenging, the second old man, Boomy, said as he turned away. HMPH. The first elderly gentleman also averted his gaze. After a brief period of disagreement lasting 5 minutes, they managed to settle down somewhat. Toph observed the interaction with a hint of appreciation. She had believed her grandfather had no remaining friends, yet here stood one. The interaction resembled a gathering of two longtime acquaintances who felt comfortable expressing their thoughts candidly. "Join us. I believe she would be agreeable to it," Bumi stated. She had a fondness for large gatherings, the elderly gentleman, Shomu, remarked with a hint of melancholy. Based on his tone, he was Bumi's declared friend. A brief stroll through the palace's concealed corridors brought us to a comfortable room. A long table featured several burning aromatic candles. At the center, there were 3 paintings of varying sizes. Against the wall, on a stone mannequin, was displayed a set of vintage Earth Kingdom armor, marked by chips and cracks that reflect its history of numerous battles. "Aika, it has been nearly a year since we last saw each other," Shomu remarked gently, seated on a rug as he spoke to his sister's portrait. "I trust that you have embarked on a new chapter in your life." Bumi sat beside him, observing the painted girl with a sense of wistfulness and affection. The portrait portrayed a young woman of approximately 20, her brow line imparting a sense of sternness. At times, artworks express emotions with a potency that surpasses verbal communication, I reflected. The artist has evidently invested significant effort and passion into this piece. The second painting depicted a family of 4. The familiar young woman, still in her teenage years, had a small boy holding onto her legs. His features were similar to those of Chomu. The third painting depicted 7 individuals of approximately the same age, 5 unfamiliar young men, along with Bumi and Aika. Young Bumi stood tall among his peers, a remarkable figure. His somewhat eccentric gaze appeared unaffected by the passage of time. Aika's expression had softened, her eyes were gently closed, and a prominent scar now adorned her cheek. Each individual in the painting exhibited traces of their profoundly experienced lives. "Her name is Aika, my late wife," Bumi stated quietly, his expression unusually solemn and composed. "I trust that her legacy will persist long after these individuals have departed." Approximately a century ago, a young boy named Bumi was unaware of how to engage himself in leisure activities. The other children at the orphanage lacked the engagement necessary to match his vibrant energy. The future king transformed the entire city into his domain of leisure. His actions consistently led to repercussions, yet he remained undeterred. "You are quite the troublemaker," a girl asserted, pointing at him with a serious yet charming demeanor. "I am positioned slightly to the left," Bumi indicated with a wave of his hand. "I apologize for my poor eyesight," she stated, adjusting her orientation accordingly. "Please, let's not divert from the topic at hand. I am not easily deceived, Mr. Criminal." She assumed a theatrical stance, resting her hand under her chin, clearly imitating someone. "You will not be able to catch me." Bumi was uncertain about her meaning, however, it seemed that the girl was inviting him to engage in a game. "Stop," she pursued him. The friendship between Aika and Bumi commenced from this unusual exchange. As time progressed, their bond deepened. They exchanged earthbending techniques and dedicated hours to lying beneath the clouds, discussing their most profound aspirations. "I will become the most formidable earthbender, so powerful that even Avatar Kyoshi would admire my abilities," Aika stated with intense determination. "With this strength, I will safeguard our community from adversaries." "Avatar Kyoshi has been deceased for quite some time," Bumi responded, casually attending to his ear. "If she were alive, she would certainly express, Aika's capabilities surpass my own. What about you? What are your aspirations?" "I am uncertain, so I will defer to your guidance," Bumi acknowledged, feeling a sense of vulnerability in admitting that he regarded her as his most trusted companion. This is not appropriate. Everyone needs to have a significant objective. As time progressed, a decree was issued by the Earth King, allowing all children between the ages of 9 and 13 the opportunity to become his successor. Every new Earth King implemented their own approach for determining their successor. The appointment of children or relatives was prohibited. Aika recognized the significance of this opportunity and felt compelled to take action by signing up. Bumi proceeded to follow her. Among all the children, only 100 were chosen. Each month, their numbers decreased. For years, they engaged in daily earthbending training and memorization. Monthly assessments rigorously identified and removed the least proficient individuals. Ultimately, only 20 of the most skilled and dedicated individuals remained. The Earth King's subsequent objective was to execute military operations. During that period, the forces of the Fire Nation were advancing towards the borders of their province. Time continued its steady progression, and additional years elapsed. Out of the 20, only 7 persisted. The remainder succumbed in the trials of conflict. During a confrontation with the Fire Nation, Aika completely lost her sight. This experience has only fortified my resolve. Now, I maintain a distance from others. The loss of such a crucial sense could have led to despair, but not Aika. In just 1 week, she acquired the ability to perceive the world through the lens of earthbending. Ultimately, Bumi found the resolve to express the deep emotions he had held for years. I believed I would need to take control of the situation, Aika chuckled, warmly embracing Bumi. The 7 candidates developed a strong camaraderie, consistently supporting one another through various challenges. The competition for the throne was expected to foster animosity. However, destiny instead brought forth only the finest allies. Everything transformed one day. A straightforward information-gathering mission concluded with Aika's demise. On that day, an arrival went unnoticed. A Fire Nation general accompanied by his personal guard reached the base. Aika was observed and encircled. Following the reduction of half the base's contingent, her life was ended by the accurate shot of an archer's arrow. The following day, Bumi perceived that something was amiss and made the decision to visit the base. Upon arrival, clarity emerged. Overcome with sorrow, he concluded the battle with the remaining warriors and transported his wife's lifeless body home. Only a week prior, they had enthusiastically organized their wedding plans. He transported her to their residence, a place that would no longer echo with her laughter. On that same day, the Earth King encountered Bumi's displeasure. Bumi was convinced that Aika had been assigned a mission with no chance of survival. She was the finest among you. I had no justification for her demise. The then Earth King declared passionately. Please refrain from causing any damage to my palace. While there were injuries, the ruler of the city believed it was more prudent to confront Bumi alone rather than take on all 6 students simultaneously. I have trained you to my own detriment, the Earth King expressed, expelling reddish saliva. I am deeply saddened by her passing. However, she would have wanted her closest confidant to realize her dream. It was only later that Bumi understood the Earth King had taken advantage of his vulnerable condition, manipulating his emotional scars to guarantee that the most deserving successor would assume his position. I apologize, my son, but you are the one destined to guide this city through its most challenging moments, the Earth King remarked, observing Bumi's solitary figure as he left. If he were still alive, I would willingly recount his bones once more. Bumi concluded his narrative with a foreboding tone. However, he was correct in one regard. You have truly become a commendable Earth King, Shomu remarked gently. Pardon? Could you please repeat that? I didn't quite catch what you said. Bumi cupped his ear, his smile indicating that he had indeed heard everything. I have stated that I will make my own arrangements to return home. You hard of hearing individual. Are you seeking a confrontation? After all these years, you remain unable to love anyone. How profound your feelings must have been, Bumi. 98 years have passed since the genocide of the air nomads. Approximately midway to the capital, Zuko and Azula, the offspring of the Fire Lord, were making their way back home following nearly a year of rigorous training at their respective academies. They completed their exams, and soon they would have several months free from their demanding instructors, which elevated their morale. I am eager to resume my firebending training with Master Wan, Azula remarked, directing her enthusiasm more towards herself than to Zuko, who was occupied with polishing his preferred swords. I am uncertain that I will acquire any new knowledge. I would prefer to concentrate more on my swordsmanship, he ultimately responded. Are you serious? The instructor customizes our training according to our progress. It would be beneficial for you to recognize the techniques I am already mastering. Azula would not accept any disrespect, particularly regarding anything associated with Master Wan. Very well, Zuko remarked. However, what remained undeniable was his polarizing perspective. He often tended to either exaggerate or minimize the importance of events in his life. He disregarded any information that did not align with his preferences or established thought processes. A familiar silence enveloped them once more. Each maintained their position resolutely. Throughout the years they spent together, they discovered that neither could fully comprehend the other. The subdued sound of the carriage wheels was abruptly disrupted by a piercing whistle, succeeded by a forceful collision that caused the cart to overturn onto its left side. Azula and Zuko struck their heads against the iron roof. Struggling for breath and expressing discomfort, they started to regain awareness. Everything blurred before their vision, accompanied by a persistent and uncomfortable ringing in their ears. In the background, the raised voices of their guards could be heard. Blood, Azula said quietly, placing her hand on her head. Upon looking to the right, she observed a substantial dent that had almost compromised the integrity of their reinforced carriage. Another impact of that magnitude, and our survival will be at risk. We must evacuate immediately. They collaborated to pry open the roof hatch, momentarily setting Zuko aside. Upon exiting, they encountered a scene of disorder. Several guards were found unresponsive near the carriage, and one of the Komodo dragons had been dismembered. The sight of the deceased and the odor of blood intertwined with charred flesh ultimately restored their awareness. "Your Highnesses, it is imperative that you leave this location immediately," exclaimed one of Ozai's trusted guards. Several of the riding animals were deceased, while others had escaped in terror. "Mako, Naru, provide an escort for them." The soldiers advanced with determination, prepared to sacrifice everything. "I have visual confirmation. That individual is launching a long-range fire blast in our direction," one of the archers reported. A subsequent explosion occurred, resulting in the destruction of their carriage. "He has come to understand that you are no longer present. Please proceed with urgency," Naru insisted, guiding Azula and Zuko onward. The landscape is excessively exposed, and he occupies elevated terrain. The ideal vantage point for an offensive maneuver. "Ensure the safety of the Fire Lord's children," someone exclaimed. The remaining warriors advanced towards them with urgency. However, before they arrived at the children, another intense beam was directed towards them. Naru and Mako silently moved the children to a safe distance. The explosion impacted the two courageous fighters. A detached finger fell squarely onto Zuko's head. Zuko, having reached his limit, was unable to contain himself and expelled the contents of his stomach. Azula was not in an optimal condition. However, her innate abilities, coupled with her survival instinct, compelled her to assess the assailant for vulnerabilities. It proved beneficial. She observed that the attacks originated from his head. "Archers, target the head," she commanded. Their attempts to strike had already been made. Historically, such actions ensured a definitive victory. But the adversary adeptly protected his head with his hand, causing arrows to ricochet off harmlessly. It is essential that we acquire at least one of Yu Yan's specialized arrows. As the remaining soldiers offered cover, the two archers carefully aimed, selecting specialized arrows from their quivers. The arrowheads featured a small explosive mixture at their tips. Upon his attack, initiate fire without delay, another, more seasoned warrior advised. A new lethal beam was directed at their group. The children of the Fire Lord were swiftly repositioned, their forms providing protection. "At times, I find myself wishing we possessed defensive firebending techniques," a soldier remarked with a wry smile, steadfastly prepared to absorb the impact and reduce the harm. "At the very least, our families will be well taken care of," another experienced voice remarked. The beam impacted, propelling their motionless forms through the air. "Fire!" the warrior protecting Zuko exclaimed. Two arrows flew swiftly toward the adversary. However, at the final moment, a metallic hand emerged to shield his head, safeguarding the third eye of the infamous mercenary recognized in specific circles. The interaction with the rigid surface of the prosthesis resulted in a reaction of the explosive mixture, leading to some damage. "He is retreating. Let us proceed." The duration of the enemy's recovery remained uncertain, making every moment critical. 1. Somewhat earlier. The Palace of the Fire Lord. I received the concerning news at the moment I was focusing my efforts on the Golden Dragon Egg. I had a brief connection with Roku, who assisted me in creating a niche in the wall where I concealed the future avatar. Fortunately, considering the proximity of the neighboring volcanoes, the entire palace structure was meticulously designed to endure the elements, with wall thickness serving a critical function. The dragon necessitated a designated amount of energy weekly. The egg had increased in size, and the presence of life within it was becoming more pronounced. I became aware of the incident at the same time as others, when the unharmed children of Ursa arrived in the city. After promptly completing the feeding procedure for the dragon, I made my way to the throne room, where Ozai was assembling individuals to pursue the assailant. The room was already occupied by distinguished individuals from the Fire Nation. In the midst of the discussions, I was able to collect some valuable information. You won't believe it, but it was totally the Combustion Man. He was super popular back in the day, winning a bunch of Agni Kai. While I was listening to all the chatter, I caught something interesting. You know, some folks around here have definitely brought him on board. And seriously, who else focuses their attacks right around the head like that? I was thinking, so it's Sparky Boom Man. I've heard a bit about him. I've heard that he never says no to a good paying gig. It's pretty likely that the fire sages brought him on board. They've got the resources to shell out a big amount for the heads of the Fire Lord's kids. Quiet down. One of Ozai's guards called out as the Fire Lord walked in. Underneath his always calm expression, there was a hint of rage just waiting to burst out. Ozai. Just peace, no emotions. I felt like shouting. It felt like I got what the sages were aiming for. After a while, you'd have to be oblivious not to see how Ozai is always so detached. He'd been spotted more than once sipping on some herbal brew, even though he used to be all about jasmine tea, just like his older brother. After discovering the truth, they figured it was time to shake Ozai out of his state by diving deep into Vadu's energy. And what could be worse than hurting his own kids? It had been ages since anyone had dropped by Ursa, so she was definitely off the table. So, Iroh wasn't the right fit either, which left Zuko and Azula as the ones in the spotlight. So, it turns out there was an attack on the heirs. Ozai said, confirming what everyone had been talking about, and that stirred up a mix of reactions. Some were truly upset, while others were just putting on a show. Luckily, the kids are safe and doing okay. Soldiers have already set up a perimeter around the area, and there are ships keeping watch on the other side of the island. The criminal is trapped and just waiting to be caught. Anyone who brings him to me alive will get a nice reward. His flames flickered dramatically at the end. I think it's only fair to deal with whoever had the audacity to threaten my students' lives, I mused. Specifically, Azula's, to be exact. I noticed a familiar face in the crowd. The Dragon of the West was around too, and let me tell you, his expression was anything but friendly. Once the announcement was made, everyone rushed to join the hunt, but Iroh just stayed put. That's interesting. By the closed doors of the throne room, small groups were chatting about the latest news. I joined in and listened to a chat between two brothers. This is just what we thought, Ozai. So, have you made a decision about Zuko yet? Iroh asked, sounding a bit anxious. Yeah, Ozai's tone hinted that he had finally found his footing again. Sure, I'm okay with that. Zuko can go with you. They had a point, after all. Traveling around the world would definitely make it trickier to keep tabs on their location. Make sure to keep an eye on him. I won't let him get hurt, Iroh promised. Maybe I'll hop on the search too. I hope Iroh doesn't complicate things, I thought. I had put in a lot of work to turn Zuko into something valuable. I took my time when it came to looking for the combustion man. I decided to hang back and wait for the kids to show up, just to see if Ozai's claim about them being safe was true. And Ursa, when she heard the news, was worried. She needed some support as well. They're all good, and they'll be here any minute, I said to the worried Ursa, who had been hanging out by the palace entrance for a little while now. Mom. Master Wan. Azula shouted, waving her hand enthusiastically. Next to her, Zuko, looking a bit pale, followed along with a shy smile on his face. They both had bandages wrapped around their heads in a few places. I checked their Kai and found that everything was fine, nothing serious going on. So, I just gave their healing a little nudge. Everything should be back to normal in a couple of days. You did it. You faced your first real enemy and came out on top. I'm proud of you. There was no need for comforting words. Their background shaped them differently. So, after hanging out with them for a bit, I decided to go look for the mercenary with the third eye. I asked Yi to look into the combustion technique at the Wan Shi Tong library. The special way that the spirit of knowledge communicates helped me out, making it easier to find information quickly. So, I found out that a long time ago, there was this guild of mercenaries that got started. The founder used Kai to shift the firebending channels up to the head, which is often referred to as the third eye. This allowed for long-range attacks, which were more favorable in their line of work. But you know, the clans all came together and agreed that those kinds of abilities might just spell trouble for them. They were all taken out before they could seize power. So, it turns out that the combustion man was actually a descendant of someone from the guild who managed to get away. So, the big question is, why has he never been spotted actually talking? Anyway, he was a threat and had to be dealt with. The animated series brought back memories of how he had chased after the Avatar without giving up. Jun's sensing ability would be useful right about now, I thought, since it helped me feel those life fires. In the spot where the mercenary was likely hiding, there weren't any settlements, just some scattered wildlife. I tuned in and was able to pick up on a human presence nearby. Just 5 minutes later, I found myself in front of this huge boulder that seemed to merge right into the cliff. That's where my instincts took me. Wow, he's definitely got some strength, I thought. If my chakras were closed, I wouldn't have been able to handle that kind of weight. The tight little passage in the natural cave led to a cozy, lived-in chamber. The mercenary was there, just waiting, all set to strike, focusing his skills right at me. I ducked quickly, letting the beam go right over me, and then I kicked out, sending a stream of blue fire his way. The chilly cave quickly became cozy. "Ah!" the mercenary yelled, clearly in pain as one of his legs got caught in my attack. I was already right there with him while he was struggling to deal with the pain. I gently touched his head and helped him drift off to sleep. I couldn't help but think that his nerves are definitely damaged. It only took a moment for me to put out the fire on him, but his leg was already burnt to a crisp. My Kai was flowing through his body, showing me how his channels were doing. I pointed out that questionable experiments can have bad effects even years down the line. The channels didn't just impact the area of the brain that handles speech. They also led to some pretty frequent bursts of anger. Once his leg was all healed up, I thought it would be nice to lend him a hand. It might not keep him out of prison, but it could help lessen his pain. For the next 5 minutes, I worked on entangling his channels, putting them back where they belonged. But I didn't feel kind enough to forgive the attack, so I cut off his connection to Kai. He wouldn't have anywhere to find the spark he needed to start a fire. Before long, some other soldiers came over to join me. So, we headed back to the palace, and Ozai surprised me with a plot of land and a nice estate. Oh right, I totally forgot that I don't actually have my own place here, I thought. I had gotten used to life in the palace. Wan's Pav. Fire Nation at the capital. I got this estate as a reward, and it used to belong to a corrupt official who just had a run-in with Ozai. The little manor was tucked behind a wall that stood 2 meters tall. There was a servant's cottage, the main house, and a rock garden on the grounds. Gardens like that are pretty typical in the Fire Nation. I mean, not every island can grow plants, but there are always rocks around, right? I checked out my new property, and I have to say, I was pretty satisfied with it. All the essentials for a cozy life were right there. I was a bit put off by the somewhat gypsy-like interior style. I thought of that comparison when I noticed all the fancy gilded decorations around. It seems like they were a bit lost on how to spend their cash, I thought. For some reason, I linked that kind of specific taste to money that wasn't earned honestly. Before long, Ursa found out that Zuko was heading out with his uncle. Well, there was this little scandal that she probably wanted to keep under wraps, but I happened to be there. I could definitely throw some harsh words at Ozai and the mysterious employers of her kids. Iroh will keep him safe for sure. The Dragon of the West has earned his reputation, after all, I said to reassure her. I get it, but I just can't bring myself to let him go. She sighed for what felt like the 100th time. You know, he's turning 15 this year. It's time for him to explore the world, I said. It seems like the world is doing everything it can to push Zuko away, doesn't it? The Fire Lord had to pay attention to his daughter, who was in just as much danger. So, her last year of training is going to happen right inside the palace walls. Azula was happy with how things were set up, but it looked like being close to death had boosted her confidence in her bending skills. Dad, I need to keep our bond with Mai and Ty Lee strong. Down the line, having loyal friends will be super important, she said, her fist hitting the ground with determination. Even Zuko was pretty impressed. Come on, let them train their bending with me, she said, lifting her head and looking boldly at the wall of fire where Ozai was sitting. Everyone was on edge, just waiting to hear what he would say next. I totally see what you mean, came the somewhat thoughtful voice from the other side. Azula was once a bit softer. Maybe Ozai was just figuring out the shifts in his daughter's energy. I'll chat with their dads. A couple of days later, her friends showed up. Ty Lee, with her bright smile, jumped in for a hug with everyone around her. Azula and I share the most powerful hugs. Wow, she's definitely a second size now, I thought as Ty Lee gave me a tight hug, and I could feel her grown assets. Wow, kids grow up fast, even though all 3 are already 14. It's true, when you spend time with someone, you tend to overlook the little changes they go through. Azula has become just as beautiful as her mom. And all the girls have grown up: Katara, Toph, Yui, Suki, Azula, Mai, Ty Lee. They're pretty much all the same age, born in 84 or 85, right after the Air Nomad genocide. I finally got it. It's time to stop viewing them as kids, I thought, seeing the way Ty Lee and Azula were looking at me. Definitely not like children anymore. It's not only them. Naruto picked up on some hints from Katara and Yui. Honestly, I just don't want to let my little sister go to anyone else. We can tackle the future child's health issues with Kai. I don't want to pick up on her deep feelings through our connection one day, especially when I see how much effort her boyfriend is putting in. Just the thought of it makes me feel like I want to confront any guys who might be flirting with her, just to be safe. Toph and Suki felt a bit far apart. Looks like Jun's arrival helped Toph see that I'm not just a friend teacher. The warrior women of Kyoshi's customs never fail to leave me amazed. So, the last time I was there, I happened to catch a bit of their conversation by accident. Suki, no need to stress. Mom's totally cool with sharing a guy, she said softly. Just hang on a bit longer. There's this rule, only after you turn 16 can you share a bed, she added, a touch of disdain in her voice. I was curious about why she was asking such odd questions. Honestly, I'm not opposed to it. Oh, he definitely won't be against it. Shizuka knows me well. I still remember the day he first flew in. I can laugh about it now, but back then, for some reason, he called me Suki after looking at me. You actually remember that? Looks like destiny is bringing you two together. Just remember to share with Mom, she said with a playful grin. Mom? I can totally picture Suki's bright red face. It's just so cute. It's probably because of the number of men compared to women. Even with the risky jobs that Kyoshi's warriors take on, there are still more girls being born. The island even has a few happy families made up of 2 women and 1 man. For a moment, I got lost in my thoughts and noticed that Mai seemed a bit down. She didn't even look at Ursa and me, hiding behind her bangs. Good for her. She kept the juicy details of that one scene to herself. Otherwise, I'd definitely be in hot water. He's not going anywhere for good. Before you know it, he'll be back, right? I patted her head. I should stop doing that. It's okay with little girls, but now it just feels off, like I'm crossing a line. It's okay, she said, glancing at my hand and then back to my face. She blushed a bit and looked away, which was just so cute. Her actions make me consider snagging such a cutie for myself. Zuko doesn't seem to notice her behavior at all. I mean, in the cartoon, he's always chasing after that bald boy and hardly ever pays attention to girls. So, Azula and Ursa wanted to check out my house. Zuko decided to hang back at the palace with his firebending instructor. While Azula was busy with her usual training and Ursa was lost in a novel, I was there trying to figure out that mercenary's firebending technique. Honestly, my skills felt a bit limited when it came to that kind of range. When he tapped into his ability, it helped me recall everything. I had been pondering something along those lines already. So, the first step is to send fire energy up the channels to the head. Because of my dual nature, I don't need to twist the channel system to connect it to my forehead. They're already robust enough to handle a massive flow of Kai. You've got to keep that gathered energy close to your body. Kai wraps around the fire energy for that purpose. I wonder if that's why he was so strong by himself. After all, using a good bit of Kai each time adds up. So, if you create this invisible energy sphere and then poke a tiny hole in it, you'll see a visible energy beam shoot out right away. Soon enough, the rock garden was missing a stone. The technique I came up with launched 20 meters straight, smashing the stone to bits. The loud crash sent Azula into a panic, as she recognized that sound all too well. Meanwhile, Ursa, startled, let her book slip from her hands. Just give me a heads up next time. What was that all about? You scared us. Ursa and Azula said it at the same time. I scratched the back of my head awkwardly and said I was sorry for the hassle. That's the guy's move. Are you going to teach it? Azula asked, standing next to me, her hands resting on my chest as she looked into my eyes. Absolutely, I'd love to teach you. I gave her head a little pat. Even though I just promised yesterday that I wouldn't do that anymore. But first, you'll need to pass the master exam, I said. Ozai keeps track of how his kids are doing, so it won't be long before the Fire Nation has another firebending master. Zuko isn't there just yet, maybe in a year or 2. But he's definitely doing better than most. Why aim from the head? You can take a shot from any part of the body. The rock garden felt a bit off without that one piece. So, I kept going, breaking more stones. After a while, I got the hang of letting the technique flow from my hands, feet, and stomach. I got a bit carried away and didn't even realize I had transformed into a full-on rocket launcher. Next thing I knew, I was firing off beams from every part of my body. Do you think we should stop him? Azula asked her mom softly. Let him play a little longer, Ursa said softly. Looks like he's not a fan of rock gardens. After playing for a while, I caught Ursa giving me those impatient looks. She had been squirming in her chair for what felt like ages. Oh, I totally forgot. We came here to have some privacy. To keep things low-key, we decided to bring Azula with us. The guards stayed outside the estate, trusting that the Fire Lord's family was safe with me. I gave Ursa a wink and held up 2 fingers. To keep Azula from getting suspicious, Ursa would slip into the house in 2 minutes. Azula, I just need to take a quick break. Keep going with your training, I said with a nod, even though I could feel my pants getting a bit snugger. Just 2 minutes later, Ursa walked into the house. I peeked around the corner and waved her over. There's a room here that's closed off. I just couldn't stay still any longer, she said as soon as we got into the dressing room. I believe the wait paid off, I said, gently exploring her dripping core. We dove into a passionate kiss, and then I gently leaned Ursa against the wall. As I lifted her robe, I caught a glimpse of her most intimate part. They began to discover their passion. After we had our fun a few times, we quickly cleaned ourselves up and decided to head back to the garden for a little break. I was feeling good. But Ursa's odd walk and that overly satisfied look on her face definitely made Azula suspicious. I needed to find a way to divert her attention from her mom. Plus, I should probably keep them around a bit longer. Maybe I had been a bit too pushy. I'm sure others would get what was happening. Way down deep, in the southern water tribe's waters. Deep beneath the waves, marine life thrived, mostly shielded from human conflicts. In one of the ocean's deepest spots, there was a gigantic sea mammal. It looked a lot like a whale, but if you saw it on land, you probably wouldn't recognize it at all. This whale-like creature spent its whole life snoozing, only waking up every 50 to 70 years to fill its enormous belly. It found a cozy spot to rest and almost felt like time stood still. Below it now was a man who once had the power to shape the destinies of thousands. So, Avatar Aang and his flying bison had been resting under the whale for quite a while. But, you know, that kind of thing can't go on forever. The old beast started to wake up, moving its huge fins just a bit, shifting from a deep sleep to something a little lighter. It seems like we might be waiting another 2 or 3 years for the Avatar to come out. I don't think the whale is at fault here. It probably doesn't even think about humans. Who knows, it might not even be aware of the land. Wow, it's big and feels tough, Ursa said, a bit nervously. Is it okay if I touch it? Just take it easy, I said. Wow, it's warm out here. Her hand started to wander over it gently. Is anyone keeping an eye on us? She asked, her voice tinged with a bit of fear. Everything's all set. Feel free to keep going. Ursa's hands softly stroked the warm dragon egg. Stay tuned for more. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this video. I'm thrilled you watched the video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like and subscribe for even more exciting content coming your way soon.